Hi, Crystal. How are you?
Hello, Jevon. Good morning. Good afternoon. How are you today?
I am doing great after an interesting start. Thanks for being there with me. I appreciate that.
No problem. It's all about technology, right?
All about technology. Indeed, indeed, ma'am. Indeed, indeed.
Indeed. How was your weekend?
As usual, my weekend was fabulous. I did some
Okay.
breathing exercise and got some champagne for a breast cancer. Um, what do you call it? A foundation to end breast cancer. So that was
Okay.
pretty
All right.
cool.
All
And
righty.
did some resting. So very nice indeed. And
Okay.
I rearranged my bedroom. So that was very, very fun. Sometimes,
Oh,
you
well,
have to,
that was ambitious.
yeah, sometimes you have to do that to allow yourself to look at things in different ways.
Shake up
How,
stuff, huh?
yeah, how was yours?
Mine was pretty good. I played tennis on Saturday until probably, I got in a good, it was like 2, 3 hours. So that was fantastic.
Oh,
Had a
good for
good
you.
day. And then Saturday evening, then I rebraided my hair. Well, went through the process of rebraiding my hair, which
Oh,
kept me
wow.
up to 4 o'clock in the morning. And
Oh,
then
my.
Sunday, I know he said, "Oh wow, huh?" And then Sunday, I was in the garden. We planted watermelon this weekend. So
Oh, how about that? Good for you.
yes, watermelon. We have two types of actually watermelon, and then we have a cantaloupe and a honeydew melon that's all going to be growing.
Wow. Doesn't that take a lot of water?
Well, no more than the rest of it. We got tomatoes growing. It requires daily watering. And we have corn on the cob requires all summer vegetables require a lot of water.
Oh, wow. Well, cool.
So
Well,
they'll be watered probably daily. But last year we grew watermelon and it was absolutely wonderful. So we're looking
awesome.
forward to it this year. I told my sister yesterday, I said, well, at least we have some experience and techniques under our belt. Now we're not there. We're not master gardeners, but we're like mini master gardeners.
Well, at least you're further along than I am with this technology.
Right, exactly. So it's called tenacity.
Yes, indeed.
And
Indeed.
trial and error. So that was my
Mhm.
weekend. So
Good
I
deal.
did go to sleep very early last night because I couldn't. There was nothing left. I had nothing left, and still a little draggy today. But other than that, I had a great weekend.
Well, cool. Well, your hair looks great. You look great.
Thank you. Thank
Let's
you.
get started.
All righty.
The thing we're going to talk about today is rebalancing. And we tried this last week. So we're going to try it again. In my opinion, it's one of the foremost tenets, if we can say that, about investing in a company sponsored retirement plan. And
Okay.
then perhaps you can extrapolate and we can go into a non company sponsored retirement plan as well. So let's do
Okay.
that. But before we get started, let's talk about who you are, as some people
Ah.
just don't know. So I've got your bio here.
Okay.
Crystal Mitchell, business coach consultant, CEO of Mitchell Business Solutions, co director of Recycling Black Dollars, co host of the Business Zone with Crystal and Gilbert, a weekly online radio show, instructor at Mount San Antonio Community College, certified network for teaching entrepreneurship instructor, and last but not least, a QuickBooks Pro Advisor financial strategist. Welcome, Crystal Mitchell.
Thank you, Javon. Glad to be here. And are you going to tell our audience who you are?
Yeah, I'm that guy.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm a licensed retirement plan advisor. I specialize in company sponsored retirement plans like 401ks, 403b, cash balance plans, that kind of thing. So,
Okay.
without further ado, let's get started. So, our topic today is rebalancing, and I've developed three topics for this. And I tell you, one of the reasons I want to do this, and I mentioned this last week, I believe, is that I was explaining rebalancing to a friend of mine, and
Mm-hmm.
after I finished with the explanation, I consider myself a pretty good communicator, but after I finished, she said, "That's why I have a husband," which was not the response that I was looking for. Something very
My
far from,
question
oh,
is that what husbands are for? I should have gotten one of those long time
a
ago.
long time. We all could use one, right?
For rebalancing.
So we're going to try it again because it's such an important thing. It's such an
Okay.
important thing for any portfolio, but especially a retirement plan portfolio. So the first thing I want to mention is the rebalancing helps you keep the risk that you're comfortable with the same. It helps you move back to that risk tolerance level. And that's important because we can't change the market. I can't tell you when it's going to go up and down, but I can tell you how to limit or increase your exposure. And that's where
Mm.
rebalancing comes through. Okay.
Okay.
The second is rebalancing acts on buying the losers and selling the winners. So those parts of your portfolio that are doing well, we
Mm-hmm.
want to sell those. And those
Mm-hmm.
parts of your portfolio that aren't doing well, we want to buy those. And of course, that leads into buy low and sell high. So we'll talk
Okay.
about that as well. And
Okay.
then lastly, we're going to talk about rebalancing that helps you take advantage of the market so that you can actually put off short term gains in order to obtain long term gains. So that's
Okay.
very important. And I'll just repeat those. One, keep your risk at the same level that you're that's appropriate for you. Number
Mm-hmm.
two, buy the losers, sell the winners. And number three, supports long term rather than short term gains. Okay, let's break those down. So the first one,
Okay.
keeping the risk at the same level of investment that's important for you. We have a saying in our business that says the investment that keeps you up at night is not a good investment.
Mm.
So when you're sitting down with your financial advisor, when you're sitting down with me, and that person says, okay, what's your risk tolerance? What they're asking you is, how much risk can you handle in the market? Some people can handle a lot more than others. Some people
Mm-hmm.
can say, put it all in stock, let it ride, I don't care.
Okay.
And some people are going to say, I don't want it to go down at all. All I want is it for it to go up. I don't want no ups and downs. I I'm very concerned. And it's
Mm-hmm.
here where I tell people the story that I told you last week about my ex-girlfriend Gail, who even though I was in the business and was telling her all about having the right mix of investments for her, and
Mm-hmm.
I'll mention I haven't said anything about you're in the market at a young age. You have time to recoup the cost. I haven't said that at all.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes advisors will say that and they say it to put you at ease, but it doesn't tell you any, right?
Mm.
So the real situation is the first tenet, keeping your risk tolerance where it's supposed to be. You want to make sure that the risk that you're being exposed to is something that you're comfortable with, right? Because the
And
market's
will
going to go
up and down. But would you, let's say you did start at an early age, and then as you, which you're a little bit more carefree and fancy, footloose. But then once you start changing, married, getting married, having children, and then then you, that would change, right? Your risk tolerance will change based upon what's going on in your life.
It does. It does
Okay.
most definitely. For most of us, it does. And I'm glad you brought that up because th- the plan that you have, your corporate sponsored retirement plan, is designed for you to change your risk tolerance along the way. So you're expected to have a different risk tolerance depending on what's going on in your life. As you
Okay.
suggested, you may have children, you may
Mm-hmm.
get married,
Mm-hmm.
you may come into some money. You may just decide this is too much or this is too little. So your risk tolerance is going to change, and your plan is designed for it to change right along with it. So you want to
Okay.
be comfortable of that. You're not locked in. So thank you for bringing that up.
Okay.
So first one is keeping that risk tolerance so that you have the exposure that's appropriate for you. Okay. Lots of people say to me, I want the most amount of money that I can make without losing a penny. I don't like to lose money, but I like to make money. This is similar to what my father said to me when he learned that I got in the business. He said, okay, help me with my portfolio. Here's the deal. I don't need to knock the cover off the ball. As long as I get a 20 or 30% return with little to no risk, I'll be fine, Jevon. What can you tell me? And I said, oh, Dad, we need to talk.
Those are very specific requests that I don't know if you can make sure happen.
Yeah, that was a tough one. So now begs the question, since we're here, how do you determine what your risk tolerance is? And that is,
Yes.
you have to take the questionnaire, right? Every mutual
Okay.
fund out there has one. There's even a bunch online that I've used. You take the questionnaire. It should be 8 to 10 questions. In my opinion, my humble opinion, and I'm just going to say that up front without hiding the fact that it's just my opinion. But
Okay.
in my own opinion,
Mm-hmm.
not from the people that do financial planning, but just me, I think that you should take the questionnaire at least once a year. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that you're going to get it wrong the first or second time. I
Mm.
do. I think because it's 8 questions that you're not used to and you're planning your future, right?
And what are
And
some of the questions that they ask?
oh, the questions will be, if the market drops X amount of points, what do you do? Buy, sell, or hold? How old are you? Right?
Okay.
Those kinds of questions.
Okay.
Or if the market goes up $500, or if you have a stock rather that goes up $500, what do you do? Right? Buy,
Mm-hmm.
sell, or hold. So what they're trying to get at by asking similar questions, and they're only asking 8 to 10 of them, but what they're trying to get
Mm-hmm.
at is, how do you feel about the market? How does it affect you? And most people just don't know that right out the gate. They
Mm.
just don't.
Yeah.
So you're going to make a mistake, and that's fine, because you've got hopefully 20, 30, maybe even 10 years to get it right. Right. So the
Mm-hmm.
first time you might get it wrong, but that's okay. You can take it again the next time, or when something in your life changes, or both. Right. So you
Okay.
take the questionnaire, and that'll give you a determination of stocks and bonds. Okay. So that's our starting point.
Okay.
Once we know the stocks and bonds that are appropriate for you, then
Mm-hmm.
as an advisor, we're already trained. If you have a good one, we're already trained to tell you how much large cap, mid cap, small cap, how much those are large, medium, and small companies, how much international you should have in your portfolio, how much you should have in bonds, corporate bonds, government bonds, short-term bonds, the whole nine. That's already written out, actually. And we
Mm-hmm.
do it so much that we can almost do it from memory. So the part that we have to do is pretty simple because it's already written out.
Mm-hmm.
Once we get your risk tolerance. Okay. Now, I also want to say this is only within a 401k plan or a 403b plan or a company sponsored plan. Once we get outside of the company sponsored plan, we have a different meaning to this conversation. We can talk about that a little bit more. But
Okay.
once in, we want to get your risk tolerance. We want to set up your portfolio based on that risk tolerance. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, number two.
Let me ask
We,
before you jump over to number two. So, since this is a company sponsored plan, so does that mean if there was a company that had 25 employees, that includes the executive team as well? Are you meeting or each one of those individuals filling out this questionnaire for
I
their
hope so.
own specific plan, or is this an overall strategy?
Oh, another good question. That's two for you today.
I know,
Um,
huh? I'm on it. That's what
yeah.
happens when you have no sleep.
Yeah. This is everyone in the company should take the questionnaire for their own specific retirement plan, their own specific group of investments. So the
Okay.
company has a huge set that a financial advisor, such as myself, I've done it countless times, where
Mm-hmm.
I pick the funds that are appropriate for the investment or
Mm-hmm.
for the plan, that is.
Mm-hmm.
Usually it's about 18 to 20, including what we call target funds. We'll get into that a little bit later.
Okay.
Um, so usually we give you a bevy of funds to choose from, and then we're going to help you select the funds that are appropriate for you based on your risk tolerance, based on the
Okay.
answer you come up with when you take the questionnaire. Make
Okay.
sense? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so first, it keeps our risk, it manages our risk. It helps us determine what risk is important to us. And we know that's important for one reason: the investment that keeps you awake at night, not a good investment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you come to me and you say, I'm losing money, the market tanked, and we take a look at your risk tolerance and we go, your risk tolerance says you're okay with 100% stock, but you're asking me, what should I do because I lost money? I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to say, you need to take that risk tolerance questionnaire again. All right.
Mm.
Right. Make sense?
Now, if I'm losing, because the stock, if it's the stock market, it goes up and down every single day, right? So,
Yes.
there's none that says like this. So it's always an up and down. So obviously, there's a percentage of risk or a small margin that you can tolerate. That's going to happen anyway, just naturally, right? Because other things
Exactly.
affect the stock market, right?
Right. And
Okay.
you said something very interesting there that a lot of people don't get, and that is you said the market goes up and down anyway. And it
Mm-hmm.
does, it goes up and down anyway. However, it's always going in an upward direction. Right.
Mm.
Right. So,
Okay.
yeah. So, and that's why rebalancing is so important because as you know, the market is going up, but it's not going up in a straight line.
Yeah,
Right.
it's kind
So,
of
if you,
jagged, right?
yeah, well, it's a jagged line, but it's going, yes, a jagged line going up. Right. So,
Mm.
for example, if you bought a stamp today, how much would that cost you?
Wow. I don't know. Let's see. 27, 30 cents. Let's say 30 cents, for example.
Let's say 30 cents. All right. Now, I know you were just born like, 20 years ago, but take
Right.
someone in my position. I remember when stamps were 10 cents. I remember
Okay.
you could mail a letter for a dime, right?
Mm.
Now it takes you 30 cents to do that,
Yes.
right? Maybe a little bit.
32, 30. I don't even know what stamps cost, but I think they're
Yeah,
somewhere around 30, 32 cents a stamp.
there you go. So
Hmm.
prices go up,
Right.
right? And just like the stock market goes up. And it used to take you how much to buy a car? You could probably buy a car for back in some period, even before I was born. You could buy a car, a decent car, for maybe $1,000,
Hmm.
$2,000.
Hmm.
Now we see a family decent car probably cost you 30 some odd $1,000, maybe 40 thousand
All right.
dollars.
Exactly.
Right? So things go up, right?
Hmm.
It's just like what happens in the market. The market goes up. Now, sometimes those cars go on sale. You get to buy them for a bargain, but
Hmm.
lots of times they're getting more expensive as time goes on. And that's just like the market. Sometimes things go on bargain, but they're still going up. So, how do we make sure that your risk tolerance is appropriate for you? We take the questionnaire. How do we know what kind of ups and downs you can handle? That's your risk tolerance. You take the questionnaire.
Okay.
So, rebalancing is what it does. And number two is it buys the winners, buys the ones that are doing well, and
Hmm.
it sells the ones that are not doing. I'm sorry, it sells the ones that are doing well, and it buys the ones that are not doing well,
Oh.
so that it keeps your risk tolerance where it's supposed to be, right?
Okay.
And this works for you. It's counterintuitive, but it works for you. So if your risk tolerance is um, 80% stock and 20% bonds. Let's say that. And my job is to help you get a well diversified portfolio. So let's say you're pretty well diversified amongst the area. You've got
Hmm.
large companies, medium sized companies, small companies. You got some international, you got loans, you got corporate loans, government loans. You're all over the place. You're touching everything.
Okay.
and you come to me and you say, the market went up, but I lost money, or I didn't make as much money. Why
Mhm.
is that? So we take a
Mhm.
look at your portfolio and we see that even though you are what we call a growth person, maybe like 80% stock and 20% bonds, you can handle some risk, even though that's where you are. When we look at your actual portfolio, we find that you're only 50% stock and 50% bonds. We look at the actual numbers, the amount that you have in the portfolio. So,
Okay.
because you started at 50% stock and 50% bonds, you didn't have the exposure that someone would have at 80%. So, therefore, your portfolio didn't go up as much as it could have because it
Oh,
was only
okay.
at 50-50 instead of that 80-20. Does that make sense?
Mhm. And eighty
So,
twenty, is that the magic number, or is that, I mean, is that on a norm, average?
now see, that's cheating. No,
No.
no, there's no cheating. You have to take the questionnaire. You don't, there's no shortcuts here.
Okay.
You
That's what I
can't,
was trying to get to. There's no shortcuts.
no shortcuts. You got to take the questionnaire. Great question. Great question. But it's just an example. You have more exposure to the stock market, your chance of making more money is greater. Not always, because you could have 80% of your assets in extremely conservative funds versus 80% of your assets in aggressive funds, right? So,
Mhm.
but each one of those is going to determine what's going to happen to your market. The problem with aggressive funds, they go way up, they go way down. The problem
Mm.
with conservative funds, they don't go down so much, but they don't go up that much either. So we want to put
Okay.
all that in the mix when we figure out what your 80-20 is. Make
Okay.
sense?
Okay. All
Okay.
right. So, okay.
Okay. So we've got keeping your risk where it's supposed to be, buying and losing, and that's exactly what it is, buying the losers, selling the winners.
Mhm.
And the last one I think is very important, and that's rebalancing supports a long term versus short term gains. So this is kind of a tough one because when I ask somebody, are you a long term investor? They'll say, yes, I'm 30 years old. I'm going to be here until I'm going to invest until I'm 65, maybe even 70. Okay.
Mm.
Outside of the 401k plan, that's an excellent question. Inside of the 401k plan, it means something a little different. And we could extrapolate this to any kind of quote unquote retirement plan. So,
Mhm.
inside your retirement plan, being a long term investor means you're going to be there for a considerable amount of time. I'd say more than 5 to 7 years.
Mhm.
And you're going to take advantage of market upturns and downturns instead of being run by them.
Okay.
Instead of reacting to them, you're going to take advantage of them. So, out in the quote unquote real world, outside of retirement plans, you'd go to your advisor and you'd say, hey, I just heard X about Y company. They're going to go up. Let's put some money there. And
Mhm.
that person would say yay or nay, right? Or
Okay.
you might even say to them, hey, here's the deal. Throw caution to the wind. What mutual fund, what stock, what thing is going to let me hit it and hit it big here in the
Mhm.
next 3 months? And then they would give you a suggestion, and then they may call you up and they'd say, look, this thing had a good run. It's now to get out. And you
Mhm.
get out, right? So you
Mhm.
are reacting to what's going on in the market.
Okay.
Makes sense?
Mhm.
Right?
But
Okay.
that's outside of the plan.
Outside of the 401k plan.
Okay.
Inside the 401k plan, we determine how the market is going to react to us, how we're going to react to the market. I'm sorry.
Mhm.
We determine what our exposure is to the market, and we take advantage of those upturns and downturns. But we don't have the wherewithal or the time or the inclination to be on this thing every day. We're just not going
Right.
to do it, right? In
Right.
fact, we don't want to do it. We want to have a plan that grows. And by the end of the time that we're ready to leave this company, when we're ready to leave, we're going to sell everything and do something with it. right?
And I had
So how do
always
we?
heard, and is this true? I had always heard that it inside of a plan, because it's bigger, right? It moves slower, right? That you can't do those fast reactions. Is that true today, or like you can't just say I want to sell like I am outside. If I look at my stock portfolio, and I say, "Oops, this looks like for the last month or so it's been heading downward," or the news is the company's going out of business, I can just pull out and leave my cash sitting in a cash folder, and then come back and reinvest. Can I do the same thing in a retirement plan?
Almost,
Almost.
almost,
Okay.
yeah. But it's a dangerous game,
Okay.
um, and that's one of the reasons why your retirement plan is long-term investing. So what you're suggesting is what we call sort of like day trading, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to take a look, see something's tanking, get out of that, wait till it starts to go up, and then put some money in and go up, right?
Yeah. Something
Problem
like that.
is, yeah. So the problem is you have to determine how far is going down, and you have to determine when you're going to get back in to go up, right? Most people
Mm-hmm.
can't. Most people can look at their portfolio, see what's going down, but that was yesterday and the day before and the day before. They can't look at the portfolio and say, "Oh, it's time for this to go up now."
Mm-hmm.
Right? Number one,
Mm-hmm.
we're buying mutual funds and they close at the end of the day, right? So
Okay.
you don't have the ability for interim pricing. And I would
Mm.
say, even if you do ETFs, I don't know any companies that are going to give you hourly or moment by moment pricing. So they're all going to price at the end of the day, right? So you really can't tell what your portfolio is going to be until the day after,
Okay.
right? So you're on old information if you're making a decision of what to do based on what you see in your portfolio. So I would say it's better to manage your portfolio based on what's going on in your life,
Okay. So not
right?
necessarily the external, but yours, your personal.
Your personal life.
Okay.
So we've got how do we take advantage of short-term gains? Well, as we said before, if you bought a stamp back in 1960, it would have been worth, let's say, 10 cents in order to send a letter. If you buy that same stamp now, it's probably worth 30 some odd cents, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the market is doing the same thing. The market back in 1960 was dramatically less than it is now.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the market in 1929 is dramatically less than it was in 1940, dramatically less than it was in 1960, dramatically less than 80. You see where I'm going with this? So the
Mm-hmm.
market continues to go up. So the
Mm-hmm.
way to win in retirement is to have as many investments, stocks and bonds, as you can have that cost less than what they are when you retire. So
Okay.
that's to say, you want to buy as much stuff as in 1960 prices and sell it in 1990 prices,
Mm.
right?
Okay.
So you want to buy low and sell high. Ultimately, you want to sell high and buy low. How do you buy low? How do you buy 1960 prices if the portfolio never goes down,
Yeah, you can't.
right? So
Mm-hmm.
if you see something that's going up and you get in, basically it was going up yesterday because that's the
Mm-hmm.
price that you saw. You're going to try to get in today. You're not going to know if you got the price right until tomorrow when you look at it. So you've got a lot of guesswork going on there,
Yes.
right? So in the retirement plan, we say don't do that. Don't do the day trading. Don't try to guess what's going on. Figure out what your risk tolerance is. Get a well diversified portfolio that has the right amount of stocks and bonds for you and
Mm-hmm.
rebalance that portfolio on a regular basis, which
Mm.
means keep your risk tolerance regular. So sometimes you're going to sell the winners and buy the losers and get yourself back to that 50-50 split, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
right? If that's your mix, if 50-50 is your mix.
Mm-hmm.
Rebalancing helps you stay there. So that's why I say Do it quarterly.
Mm.
I tell all of my participants rebalance quarterly, right?
Okay.
So get back
Yeah.
to that mix quarterly. Sell the winners, buy the losers. And then take the questionnaire to make sure you're in the right mix of rebalance, the right 80-20, 50-50, 60-40, whatever that is for you, to make sure that's correct for you. Because during the year, you might have got pregnant. During the year, you might have lost an arm. During the year, your
Mm-hmm.
mom may have come to visit with you. And that can
Mm-hmm.
change your mix in whichever way it does, right? I have no idea which way it's going to change it or if it will, but it might. So you
Mm-hmm.
want to have the risk that's appropriate for you. Make
I
sense?
like that. Yeah, because the quarterly is a good time because there's the season. It's almost based upon seasons, right? Because
Sometimes.
your winter, your fall, it would be a different type of thing can go in
Yeah.
your life. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
Okay,
just
I
think
like that.
about it. Yeah. So think about it. If your risk tolerance is 80% stock and 20% bonds, and for 3 quarters of the year, because of the growth in the stock market, you're at 98% risk and only 2% in bonds, it's too much
Mm-hmm.
risk for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're taking a lot more risk. So when the market's supposed to go down and you can get back to that level where you're supposed to be comfortable, it doesn't do that. So then you come to
Mm-hmm.
me and you say, this is going too wild, it's going too crazy, it's going to crash, I don't know what to do. And you get nervous because it hasn't gone down and it's just going up.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Like the real
so let's
estate
take a look
market.
at your risk tolerance. All right, so we need to rebalance your portfolio, right?
Right.
Because I remember after 2001, after we had the crash we had some portfolios where they were just going and going and going. And I also remember specifically before 2001, people would call me on the phone and they'd say, this market is going crazy. I don't know what to do. This thing just keeps going up and up. It's got to fall sometime. What am I
Mm-hmm.
supposed to do? And they refused to take the risk questionnaire. Right?
And it's interesting, and that's a good point that you make, because in 2001 when that took place, but we didn't take advantage of, we didn't think back to 2001 into 2007 and 2008. It's just like, and it was really all helter skelter and going straight up without,
Mm-hmm.
and people just assumed that it was, I guess they assumed it never was going to drop. And we're kind of in that right now, right? Where it's been
Yes.
up, 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 up. At some
Mm-hmm.
point, that's just a law of nature. Gravity is gonna drop back down.
Yeah. So when you're looking at your portfolio and it's going up and it's going up, you have to sit back and think, is this the right risk potential for me? If I'm a 100% stock person, I'm going, yay, this is great. And when the market tanks, then you go, yeah, it was a good ride. It'll come back up. I'll put some more money in now because those
Mm-hmm.
stocks I was buying were super cheap now, right?
Right.
So we have those conversations about super cheap now, and as they relate to that retirement plan all the time,
Mm-hmm.
going down as a buying opportunity, being down as a
Mm.
buying opportunity. Whereas if you're outside the retirement plan and you see your portfolio start to drop, your advisor may say, "Let's cut our losses." Right? Let's cut our
Mm-hmm.
losses and move to fight another day while we still have something to hang on to. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
going to say that. I'm never going to say that. I'm going to say, write it up, write it down. What's your risk tolerance?
Okay.
Your risk
So.
tolerance protects you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, and the quarterly, watching it on a quarterly basis or making adjustments is good, so that you're not just waiting to the end of the year when all
Mm-hmm.
kinds of stuff could have been going on and you could have missed some opportunities. So I like that.
Yeah. Well, guess what? If
But
you have a reasonable company that is holding the investments, you can hit the button on their system that says rebalance quarterly.
oh,
You don't
oh,
even have to think
really?
about it. Yeah. You just
Oh,
hit the
okay.
button, boom, they'll rebalance quarterly. Some of them will most of them will give you a choice between quarterly, semi annually, and annually.
Mm-hmm.
Some will even give you the choice of monthly.
Okay. So
Yeah.
that takes the guesswork out of it,
You
and
have
you
to
you
guess.
just go. put a tickler on your calendar, to go into your wherever your fund is and then make that adjustment there. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
I
In the
like that.
retirement world, yeah, we've realized in the retirement world that most people don't have time to look at their investments anyway. And they certainly don't have time to figure out, okay, so this one went up by this much and this one went up by this much. So I'm going to sell these two and then I'm going to buy. No, nobody, no. That's why we have computers. So they'll do it
Mm-hmm.
for you. So you don't even have to think
Okay.
about it.
Okay. That's
So I
good
tell
advice,
everyone,
Jevon.
well, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so rebalancing your portfolio. Number one, keeps your risk tolerance where it's supposed to be. Got to take that questionnaire. Number two, it keeps it there by buying the losers and selling the winners, right? And that helps you do number three, which is take advantage of market upturns and downturns.
Okay.
So rebalance, and you can do it quarterly, semi-annually, or annually. But if you want to make me happy,
Of course we do.
I would say do it quarterly and take that questionnaire annually to make sure that you have the right risk tolerance for you. Make sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does.
Okay, so let's
I
move
like
on
it.
to good. Do you need to get a husband?
No.
Oh, good. Okay. Good.
Not for that anyway.
Not for that.
Get
That's
the
good.
trash out, maybe.
Good. Okay. So now we get to the point where part of the show that I like called "Don't Be That Guy." And this time, the don't be that guy is analysis by paralysis. So when you take a look at the investment options that you have, you should see between 12 and 18 funds to choose from, plus a bevy of what we call target date funds. That's generally how we do things. And target date funds, I'm not sure if you know, you probably are. Those are the ones that end in 2025, 2030, 2040, 2050. And the way they work is you choose the year that's closest to the year that you're going to retire. You put all your money in there, and you have a team of professional managers that will choose the investments. They will rebalance your portfolio. They will uh, buy the winners, buy the losers, sell the winners. They
Mm-hmm.
will do all of that. They'll put the money
Mm-hmm.
in, and they will and as you get closer to that age, they will continually reduce the risk, right?
Oh,
So that
okay.
yeah, so that you don't have to worry about taking that questionnaire again as you get older. So it's almost what we call like a fire and forget option, right?
Okay.
Okay. And typically, not all the time, but typically, you're able to invest in individual funds as well. Not all the time, but typically.
Mm-hmm.
So the problem that people have, and this is why we call it analysis or paralysis by analysis, is that they see the 12 to 15 options. I usually put 17 or so on mine. No more than 18 though. So let's say you see
Okay.
the 12 to 18 options because we have the international arena to consider
Mm-hmm.
now. And the target date funds. So people see those 28 options or so and they go, they just throw their hands up and say, I can't do any of this. It's way too confusing. Um, that's what we call the paralysis by analysis. So I would
Mm.
say if you're looking at that list of investments and you're horribly overwhelmed and you just think, I don't know anything about this, you have help. The advisor that your client, your company has hired to help you
Mm-hmm.
with that wants to do that. It wants to
Mm.
do that. You can put your money in the appropriate target date fund. And then once you feel a little more comfortable, you can talk with that advisor about something else you want to do. So, number one, don't think you're locked in. Number two, don't think that you're alone. You have help. People in my profession want to help you. Now, there are some folks in my profession that just ask you, how old are you? And based on that, they tell you where to put the money. I don't do that. I don't think that's correct. I need you to take that questionnaire. The questionnaire actually gives you a blueprint. It gives you a thing to look at. with the questionnaire, you can say, a year ago, I took this questionnaire. I'm a little bit older now. I'm going to do
Mm-hmm.
something a little different. Or my life has changed. And it helps you look back and say, oh, my life changed. And so I took the questionnaire and that's why I'm here. I think that's important for people. Why are you where you are? I think that's
Yeah.
important.
Yeah,
But
because
some people
anything could
just,
have happened, right? You could have
yeah,
had illness in the family. Your
exactly.
child could have gone off to college. I mean, anything that's really life disrupting definitely happens. Not could have happened, does happen on a
It
regular
does
basis.
happen. Yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
I like saying to participants, hey, you took the questionnaire. This is where you are. Is that still appropriate? Let's take that questionnaire again. A lot of my colleagues can say, well, how old are you? X. How old are you now? Y. Where should I be?
But that would only work if we were whatever that age is at X, we were all the same age, experiencing all the same lifestyles, all of the same external distractions and disruptions. So that's really too vague and too broad, I would think.
Well, that's an opinion. I
Okay.
share it. I
Okay.
share it. Yeah. That's one of the reasons why I'm not a huge fan of target date funds. I think they're what we call a necessary evil because some people just don't want to make the decision. But to your point, when most of us were in our 20s, we looked pretty similar, right? Either we'd
Right.
gone to college or a trade school, or we've been working for a little while. And our main concern was drinking beer, finding a significant other, and paying back a loan,
Partying and
partying. I mean,
partying.
that's pretty much what we did, right?
Right,
And we all
exactly.
did that. So we all pretty much looked the same. Once we got into our 30s specifically, then for many of us, we had a spouse or we were getting close, we'd made some of those decisions. We had a house, we were looking to buy a house.
Mm-hmm.
We things were different, right? Maybe
Mm-hmm.
one
We're
of our
maybe
parents had
looking to get married,
sure,
potentially
yeah,
children coming along.
sure,
So yeah, we're making adult decisions at this point.
exactly. Which means
Mm-hmm.
our lives look dramatically different, and
Right.
even more so in our 40s. So in my mind, if you have a target date fund, you really don't take that into account. So all 20-year-olds might look fairly similar. Most 30-year-olds don't,
Yes.
and most 40-year-olds don't. So to your point, I'm not such a big fan of those. I will say this though, if you can't do anything else, if you don't want to do anything else, at least based on your age, you have a well-diversified portfolio, the right amount of stocks and bonds. It's being rebalanced. At least you have professional help. So I'm not going to say that they're horrible, but if you want to fine tune it to specifically you, you can do that. And I say do that with the questionnaire and the help of an advisor. There are some target date funds that go beyond that, and you have to ask to see what it does. But there are some that actually allow you to take that questionnaire inside that retirement plan or inside that target date fund. So
Mm.
they may say, for example, okay, you don't want to make the decisions about where the money's going to go. You want that professional management, but you want it based on a portfolio that's 80% bonds and 20% stock. And so it stays that way until you reach your retirement goal, and it gradually decreases as you go along.
Mm.
So it's a risk based target date fund. I think that's an
Okay.
excellent option, right? You
Yeah,
get
that's kind of
a fund that's
a little
based
bit
on
of
your
both
risk.
worlds, right? That gives you
Exactly.
the best of both worlds.
In a way, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So you got usually, I'm going to say it that way. Usually you have one or two options. One, hang out with your financial advisor for a little while, take the questionnaire, set up the time you're going to reevaluate and rebalance your portfolio, put as much in you can. The second option is choose a target date fund based on your age. Connect
Mm-hmm.
with your financial advisor, see if this is right for you, and let it go. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You always need to talk with your advisor. So that's the deal. But the real important thing about today is make sure that your portfolio is being rebalanced on a regular basis. One thing cool about target date funds is they rebalance that portfolio once a month, once a week, whenever they want to. So you're
Oh, okay.
always you're always getting a rebalanced portfolio, which is pretty cool.
So the don't be this guy is don't let everything just ride until
Don't let it ride.
2 years before you about ready to retire, and then you're like, "What the heck happened here? I never. What did you do?"
Yeah. I talked to countless people who start their 401k plan. Number one, they don't put enough in to reach their retirement goal. We can talk about that later. How do you figure that out? But they don't put
Okay.
enough in. They don't take that risk questionnaire and they don't rebalance their portfolio. So after a 20-year career, we're looking at them going, okay, how much money do you have? And what do you want to do with the rest of your life? And it's not there. The money's
Mm,
just not there. So then we have to get really creative. And another synonym for really creative is you don't get to do the things you want to do.
mm.
So don't be creative.
Don't be that
Don't be that guy.
guy.
Don't be that. Don't be paralyzed by what you see. Know that you've got to help. Know that we want to work with you. And
Hmm.
I promise you this, and if you spend a little bit of time on your portfolio in the beginning and a little bit of time, just a minute, I'm talking less than 30 minutes a year, just a little bit of time.
Hmm.
By the time you get older, you'll have a much better performance than if you didn't.
That's excellent advice right there. Is to be able to just take that time out. And it's just so funny because like you said, when you're young, you're not thinking retirement looks so far off, especially today's young people, which is, they're changing jobs every 2 to 3 years anyway. So they
Mhm.
really have no grasp of what that's going to look like by the time they get 60 and 65 and 70, when they're at that retirement age.
Mm-hmm. Most
Yeah.
definitely. They have no idea.
Yeah.
And we have a emphasis on the young culture and we're living longer now,
Yes, we
right?
are.
Right. So when FDR started Social Security way back in the day, that was just a way for you to get a little help, right? To help you with your savings and the monies that your employer gave you. But now we see people living on that, and it's tough. It's
Hmm.
really tough. So, and there's a lot of psychological and economic information that goes into that. But if you can take care of yourself in retirement, that's a really good thing in this culture, in
In
this
this culture.
country, in this culture. Other countries, they do something different. I can't talk to that. But
Yeah,
in this culture,
and you've been speaking, company like, and I know my clientele are solopreneurs. They may have one or two employees. I don't know. They think of themselves as a company, but they don't think of themselves in retiring. What does that look like? And so that's a good conversation to start having with my clientele, is to really stop to think about the future, because they
well,
go through the same things that if they were employees of another company, of somebody else's company. But even them as the employer and potential employee or of employees, they really need to take this into consideration.
they really do, and we're getting close to our hour, but we could just sort of segue into if you own a company, typically, in my experience, your big fear is taxes. Taxes, 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 taxes.
Mm-hmm.
And you work with a CPA or an accountant that's going to help you reduce your tax liability because we
Mm-hmm.
don't want to pay taxes. We want to keep our money, keep the money, keep the money. The
Right.
problem with that is you need income in order to save income,
Right.
right? You need income in order to save income. So we have to balance our need for reducing our tax liability and paying for what we're going to have in retirement. Many of us say, well, I'll just sell my business. And the problem with that is, what if you have to sell your business in 2007, that type of year, or 2008, or 2009, right?
Yeah.
What if
Right.
you have to sell your business in, you know, some horrible time? So you can't really determine when that's going to be. What if you have to sell your business suddenly, like right now, because you are your business and you're having an issue? right?
Mm-hmm.
So selling your business is a great goal, and I encourage everyone to do that. But saving for retirement allows you to keep your money. In most situations where you're going to be there, unless you're doing some type of Roth account, you can reduce your tax liability by the amount of money that you put into a retirement plan. So let's say that even though you don't want to pay Uncle Sam, right? And
Mm-hmm.
even though you want to sell your business, how about let's not pay Uncle Sam with this money? Let's save this money so that when we get ready to retire, we've got the sale of our business
Mm-hmm.
and a 401k, right? We don't
Yeah.
have that pressure, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, what does that look like? Well, my favorite words, you got to have a plan. You got to sit down with that CPA and say, okay, here's the deal. I want to reduce my tax liability. CPAs are good at that. Accountants are good at that. People who run QuickBooks books are good at that, making the
Mm-hmm.
contributions, keeping track. The
Mm-hmm.
other thing is, I need to save for retirement. How do I do that? So, how about if we offset putting money into our retirement plan and paying into the taxes?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because if I could
Mm-hmm.
reduce my income by bringing on expenses, if I can do that, why can't I reduce my income by contributing to my retirement plan and actually save some money, keep it for myself?
Yeah, that doesn't quite get to that population though. And it's like you're saying, they're focused on saving taxes, so that means all my expenses are going out the door. But again, you have to have revenue in order to pay those expenses. But they don't think of self first, right? The taking care of the 10% that you need to put into yourself. And I think that's a conversation that needs to be had, yeah, for my population of client, my target market, because they don't have those conversations. And what they do is, yes, they do look at selling their businesses, but they don't necessarily know what they need for retirement. They just know somebody's going to offer me $1 million for my business. Well, what if you're 55? $1 million is not going to take you very far if you live to be 75 or 80. And I don't think they ever have a conversation with a Jevon
Yeah,
in
well, I'm
order
here.
to. What we might have to do now that you brought that up, I might have to have a webinar. We might have to have a webinar where I we have that the conversation, especially with people who are looking at jump starting their businesses and getting back on track after COVID. That might be a conversation because they've just gone through a crisis and they're open right now and looking
Yeah.
at what that future looks like.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think many folks, because I'm a small business person myself, I think after the end of the day, okay, now I got to save something for retirement.
Yeah.
What we don't realize is that if I start with saving something for retirement, I can reduce my tax liability, which is going to reduce my income, which is going to help me save money for later. So instead of I've got my expenses plus retirement, the situation is I have my expenses including retirement. Does that make
Mm-hmm.
sense?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
instead of
Mm-hmm.
me saying, okay, I need to put an extra 10% away, if we start with that 10%, now my CPA can say, okay, instead of us reducing your income by 10%, we've already done that, right? We've
Right.
already reduced your income by 10%. Let's start from there. And you get to say, yeah, I reduced my income. I've reduced I've reduced the amount I have to pay out, and
Mm-hmm.
I've saved for retirement.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
So
I like that.
we have to change our mindset. It's not expenses plus retirement. It's retirement. I mean, it's expenses including retirement.
Including that, it's all
Uh,
incorporated in.
yeah. And that way I
Yeah.
don't have to get, because you can always put on your portfolio when you pay your taxes, you can always say, uh, contributed $50,000 to my retirement plan. Let's take $50,000 off. Cool. We'll start from there, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
not bad.
That's a good thing.
Now, that's a good thing. And now we don't have to come with, is that really an expense or not? So
Right,
how many
exactly.
times did you, when did you buy that tractor? Right. So, right. What did we set that up at? Right. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
what is that cell phone part of my business? What part of that cell phone is my business? Is I doing the right thing to stop all of that?
Mm-hmm.
Let's throw $20,000 or $30,000 into our retirement plan. Let's put $2,000 a month into the retirement plan, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
let's start with a reduction of our income of $24,000. Now we don't even have to be creative with regard to reducing our tax liabilities because we already took $24,000 off.
Mm-hmm.
Are you with me?
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, we have to. Yeah, we'll talk about that because I think I know for I know that because I do. I'm one of those QuickBooks professionals and advisors to my clients, and I'm doing the person's books, and that ain't nowhere in it. Trust me, that ain't nowhere in it.
Yeah. 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 It's just a different way of looking at a situation. And we've been taught from our society that, you know, and retirement comes on top of or afterward everything else. And we
Right.
look at it as something that comes after everything else. But the
Mm-hmm.
right way to look at it is something that makes everything else better when you're a small business person, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, what you're saying is selling your business is not the retirement plan.
I think it's part of it,
It's part of it, but it's not. It's not the
not the whole thing.
overall. Because there's more fact. There's more factors involved.
Yeah. Because,
Yeah.
like we were saying before, we don't always get a chance to get the price we want. And like you said, the price we need. And
Yeah.
we don't always get a chance to get the price when we want it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, who
Yeah.
knows what can affect your business?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, this has been a great conversation. It's covered a lot and really kind of even got me thinking about some things on for the future and what hasn't been happening and then especially for my clients, my long-term clients. I know these are conversations that we don't normally have. So I'm gonna start having those conversations with my clients.
Well, I'm always here for you. Just give me a call.
Okay, I know that.
Okay. Let's tell everybody who you are and then let's close down the show. So,
All righty. Great show
Crystal
today.
Mitchell. Good. Thank you. I never get to make you think. This is cool. Crystal Mitchell, thanks for joining me. If you don't know, Crystal is a business coach and consultant. She's the CEO of Mitchell Business Solutions, co-director of Recycling Black Dollars, co-host of the business show with Crystal and Gilbert, another online show, instructor at Mount St. Antonio Community College. She's a certified network for teaching entrepreneurship instructor and a QuickBooks Pro Advisor financial strategist. Thank you, Crystal, for joining me. I'm Jevon Thomas, a licensed retirement plan advisor. And thank you for joining us on the patio with Crystal and Jevon.
Yes.
Conversations on the patio with Crystal and Jevon.
It's been fantastic. Good topic today. I liked it. We and I hope everyone has learned something from that and enough to create enough curiosity for you to pick up the phone and call your retirement um, advisor. Which, if you don't have one, Jevon is over here waiting for your phone call. Give him a call.
Excuse me. Yes, indeed.
Bless you. And if you do have one, make sure they're giving you that questionnaire and spending time with you on a quarterly basis so that you know where you're going in the future. So it's been fantastic. Hope everyone have a great week. Be safe out there, and we'll see you again next Monday.
Thank you now. Bye bye.
All righty. Bye bye.